All right, I'd like to thank everybody for being here this morning. Captain Michael Nicholas, Kern County Fire Department. We have a lot of information that we'll be covering today, so I'd like to set some preliminary ground rules about keeping questions for the very end. And then if you have a question, please keep it to a single question and a single follow-up and identify the agency that you're with. I'd like to introduce Chief Brian Marshall, Chief of the Kern County Fire Department and Chief of Office of Emergency Services.
Thanks, Mike. Good morning, everyone. Well, since last Thursday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the Kern County Fire Department, U.S. Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, CAL FIRE, California Office of Emergency Services has been actively engaged in stopping the Erskine fire. When the fire broke out, this wind-driven fire burned through several of our communities, destroying, currently, we have documented 200 single-family dwellings. That number is expected to rise as we continue with our damage assessment. The fire continues to burn in steep, rugged terrain in the forest south of Lake Isabella. We continue to work air tankers and hand crews in this rugged terrain and extremely hot conditions in the Kern River Valley. Right now we have the fire listed at 45,388 acres, and it's 40% contained. The first few days were devoted to extinguishing and controlling this fire, protecting structures, and just trying to keep the fire in a box so it didn't threaten and destroy more structures. As we went through the weekend, we've began the recovery process in our communities that have been absolutely devastated by this fire. What we are trying to do now is develop a repopulation plan to get our citizens back in their communities. But that is a rather complex plan, just as fighting the fire is a rather complex operation. Our number one priority for all of the firefighters that are on scene is public safety, making sure our citizens are safe. You can just imagine the devastation that has occurred in our communities has made these areas very, very unsafe. The firefighters that work in there, they wear hard hats, they wear protective clothing, boots, and it's just very dangerous. And we want to make sure when our citizens come home that they are safe. Downed electrical power lines, hot ash, burning trees that could fall. All of these items need to be mitigated by our firefighters and other agencies that are assisting in this operation. So we have been diligently working on a plan to get people back into their homes, back into their communities, and we'll discuss that plan today. But we continue to work on it in order to expedite getting our citizens back home. As we go through an overview of this plan, and there's a lot of people who are going to speak because there's many components of it, we will execute the plan as soon as possible because we want our citizens home, but their safety is our number one priority. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Chief Marshall. Next up, I'd like to introduce Deputy Chief Brent Moon, Kern County Fire Department.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome, everybody. I am been tasked with working with the EOC to direct the EOC, which is the County Resources county departments, community partners, state OES, and other agencies that will be working on the recovery effort. With that effort, one of the first things we've done is we established a call center for people to call for information on the recovery effort. This is not the fire call center, this is the recovery effort at the EOC. It's here at the EOC, and the number that you can call is 661-873-2660. That number will be staffed with people with information for the public and those affected, and we'll also be trying to capture the trends or needs of the public through that resource. This number will be available 12 hours a day from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening. It's a 12-hour resource, not a 24-hour number. So this will help with disseminating our information as it's growing, our transition plan to have people re-enter their properties and be put back into their homes as part of the recovery process. Stage 1 we're initiating today is opening up those areas for people to go back in their homes that are not affected by burn damage. So we're doing that in wide areas. We've opened up the areas of Yankee Canyon, Mountain Mesa, and then the communities east of South Lake, Weldon, Bella Vista, those communities east of South Lake. The good news is those communities east of South Lake now have electrical power that's been restored by Edison. We're still working, or Edison's still working diligently to provide power for those communities west of South Lake. So that's the first stage, is getting the people into their homes that we can do that immediately. The second stage is the complicated part, where we are going to open up a transition center at Woodrow Wallace School, and we'll be bringing people in there and bringing them in a systematic manner to their homes and reintroduce them to their properties and their situation. We're developing with all of our partners the support mechanism for recovery and the support of our community and our citizens there. Those plans will be coming out as we reach those milestones to provide that service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief Moon. Next up, I'd like to introduce the Director of Public Health, Matt Constantine.
Thank you, everybody. I'd like to just give you a brief update on what public health has been doing involving the fire. Since Friday morning, we have been staffing the two shelters, the now two shelters, with public health nurses 24 hours a day. As you know, we assisted with the relocation of more than 70 patients from the Kern River Valley Hospital on Friday. And as been mentioned, the call center that is now active is being staffed primarily with public health employees that'll transition over time. We're also providing medical supplies to those first responders and some of those in the evacuation centers as they need. We've also determined that there are a number of permitted facilities that we regulate that have been affected either because of fire damage or power outages or water outages. We have 32 state water systems that have been affected. 3 of those systems have been issued a do not drink order from the state. 8 systems have been issued a boil water notice, and there are 10 that we do not have a status update on this morning. We also regulate a number of smaller systems at the county level. There are 12 of those systems that have between 5 and 14 connections that have likely been impacted. 6 have been issued boil water notices, and 6 others remain unknown at this point. We also have some smaller wells, water systems. We have 43 small systems that have between 2 and 4 connections, and their status remains unknown as of this morning. We also have 218 wells that are located within the affected area that may have suffered damage However, we do not know their current status. We've created some maps that we're using today to try to determine the impact to potable water in the area. We also have 49 permitted food facilities that have been affected. We have 75 permitted hazmat facilities that have also been affected. To address some of those concerns, Public Health has deployed 4 separate teams into the area. We have 2 assessment teams that were deployed this morning at 8 a.m. to assess damages to homes and businesses in the area. We're joined with building inspectors and fire and sheriff personnel as we make our rounds in the area. They are primarily looking at concerns over chemicals, propane tanks, potential asbestos that was used as a building material, and the potential for lead contamination from homes built prior to 1978. We also have a public health strike team. This is the 3rd team that's been deployed this morning to assist with those returning to their homes. Their homes have been shut down for a while. They have not had water. They have not had power. There's going to be concerns with food that's left over in the refrigerators and potable water in their homes. We'll be there assisting them in that transition process and distributing a lot of material and information. And finally, we have a 4th team, an environmental health team, that is going out to all of the permitted food facilities and working with them on providing advice and recommendation during this time when there may not have been power and water provided. So those 4 teams are currently in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Next up, I'd like to introduce Ray Pruitt, PIO for the Kern County Sheriffs.
Good morning. The first thing that I would like to update you folks on is that, as you're aware, on Saturday there were some remains that were found on Fiddle Neck in the South Lake area. I just spoke to the coroner's manager shortly before we started this press conference, and she was able to confirm that we have determined that those remains are animal remains. So at this point we only have 2 confirmed fatalities. We did make an arrest last night, and I'll be putting out some additional information on that a little bit later today. We arrested a subject. He was walking in an area that had been closed, and he was contacted by deputies, and he was in possession of 2 firearms and a duffel bag. I don't have a lot of information on the circumstances of that arrest, but I'll be putting out some additional information on that later today. And the last thing that I would like to say is that we have had some reports of members of the media trespassing on private property and sifting through rubble on private property. Apparently there's been either some photographs taken or some video taken of members of the media doing that. And we understand that members of the media have a right to be in areas that are affected by natural disaster. But we would ask that you be mindful of private property and people's personal property. Most of these residents haven't even had an opportunity to get back to their properties to assess the damage that they've had. And we know, speaking to some of the residents up there, that they are very upset that these reports are coming out, that members of the media are actually going onto their property and going through their belongings before they've even had a chance to check on their properties. So we just ask that you be mindful of that and respectful of what the people have in those areas that are affected, what they have gone through in the last few days, and the type of emotions that they're going through, and a lot of them have lost really everything. And just be respectful and mindful of what they've had to endure and will have to endure as we move forward. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Next up, I'd like to introduce Megan Hughes with the Red Cross.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for coming here today. I'm here to talk to you today about our ongoing shelter operations and our transition into recovery activities. We do have 2 shelters still currently available in the Kern River Valley area, the St. Jude Catholic Church and the Kernville Elementary School. All of our Red Cross locations are handicapped accessible, and if you have a service animal, your service animal is welcome at a Red Cross shelter. If you're currently not staying at a Red Cross shelter and you need food assistance or assistance with emergency prescription refills, we can assist you at a shelter. As we transition to the recovery phase of this operation and people are allowed to go back to their homes, we'll be working with the county in their transition center, and we'll be talking to residents whose homes have been destroyed by the fires. We'll be able to provide them with some financial assistance to help them get back on their feet and point them also to some of our county partners who will also be able to help them. We are amazed and gratified by the outpouring of extraordinary generation by our community. But we would like to tell you the most effective way that you can help Red Cross is by making a financial donation to 1-800-RED-CROSS or online at redcross.org/donation. If you are interested in making a non-monetary donation, we encourage that as well. However, please do not drop them off at a Red Cross shelter. We are simply not prepared to handle the outpouring of love that we've seen from the community. We are working with local partners to keep all of your donations here local and get them out to the families affected by the fire just as quickly as possible. Okay? Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'll be available after.
Thank you, Megan. Next up, I'd like to introduce Kern County Treasurer Jordan Kaufman.
Thank you. I would like at this point to talk about donations, both monetary and non-monetary. I also want to echo the great thanks for all the local and regional communities that have donated. The outpouring has been substantial. So first I'm going to talk about monetary donations, and the Red Cross has touched on this as well. There are 2 county-sponsored donation sites for this event. One is the Red Cross, and I'll give that information again. You can donate at redcross.org or at 1-800-RED-CROSS. You can also text the word Red Cross to 90999 to make a simple $10 donation. The other county-sponsored entity is the United Way of Kern County, and to make a donation there, you can go to their website at www.uwkern.org and just hit the donation button, and the Erskine fire is one of the drop-down menu options. I want to say that there are no county-sponsored GoFundMe sites, so I'm not saying the public cannot donate to those, but those are private sites not affiliated with the county in any way. And I'm talking about monetary donations first because those are the most important. That is, at this point, the best way to help the victims of this incident is with monetary donations. However, non-monetary donations, and even more specifically non-food non-monetary donations, are still being accepted at the Elks Lodge in Woodford Heights. And that address is 7608 Woodford Heights Boulevard in Woodford Heights. And they are only accepting donations during regular business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Again, a ton of donations have come in already, and so they're getting full. Animal-related donations can be made to the Lake Isabella County Animal Shelter, and that is located at 14891 Highway 178 in Lake Isabella. And again, they are only also taking donations during regular business hours, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Another excellent way to donate non-monetary donations is at any Goodwill here in Kern County. Goodwill is accepting donations all throughout the county, obviously in the Bakersfield area, and East Kern, and Goodwill will provide vouchers to the victims so that they can go to any Goodwill and actually get things that they need for free with those vouchers. Food-related donations. The food pantry in Lake Isabella is just about full, and so we're going to coordinate with them a little bit more and see if they can actually get any more donations. If so, we will provide that information to the public shortly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jordan. And this concludes our official portion of the press conference that we have. I'd like to open up the floor for questions, please. Once again, please limit it to one question and one follow-up, and identify the agency that you're with.
I'm with Channel 29 here in Bakersfield. I don't know who to address this question to, but if there's a resident up there who has lost their home, when they go to that recovery center, what happens there and what kind of assistance would they get?
Yes, the recovery centers that we are setting up will have a host of support people there, both Red Cross, mental health, insurance documentation, family comforts, needs, counseling, spiritual counseling. We're going to have quite a cadre of assistance there for those people.
So would that include how they can get some financial help, and are there other sources of funding for rebuilding and getting their life started back up again?
Absolutely. Everything we can leverage to provide for them will be there.
So that would be, is there state funding or what's coming?
Currently there's a state proclamation and the county declaration, and that's where we're at this time.
I'd like to invite Chief Marshal up also to speak on the same topic.
Just a follow-up. Tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, the County of Kern will be declaring a proclamation a local emergency at the Board of Supervisors, and then that proclamation will go to the Governor's office for concurrence, and we are anticipating that this disaster proclamation will go all the way to the President. There is a lot of federal agencies that will be assisting with the recovery efforts, and there's a lot of state agencies. Just some of the discussions that we had yesterday involved debris. When you remove that debris, where does it go? Is it safe to take it to a landfill? So there's a lot of issues like that. When you have structures destroyed in a wildland fire like this, the people were escaping barely, within an inch of their lives. That fire was moving so fast. So the houses that have burned down, they've lost their driver's license, social security card, all of that type of vital information that we need every day. There'll be agencies in the Kern River Valley to help people get that information back so they have it, because that's going to be important to their recovery. So this is a multifaceted operation with the recovery, and it will be local agencies, state agencies, and federal agencies here in the county assisting our citizens.
Thank you, Chief Marshal.
CBS News. Are residents starting to get restless, wanting to get back into their homes?
You can just imagine being displaced from your home for 4 days, and then add on the anxiety of, did my home even survive? So yes, people are getting anxious to get back into their home, their communities, to see if they have a home to go home to. Even though we're reporting 200 totally destroyed single-family dwellings, there's numerous other single-family homes that have been damaged. So this is a lot of damage. This is going to go down as the most destructive wildland fire in Kern County's history. And these people, they've been displaced and they want to go home. So that's why we're here today, to start that process to repopulate these communities and get people back in their homes.
If I could take his follow-up, when will people be let back into their homes? The fire burned through, a couple days ago, 3 days ago for some of them in South Lake and Mountain Mesa. So how long will it be? When will it be safe for them to come back?
So just to repeat the question, I know we've had some problems actually hearing the questions being addressed. So the question is, when will people be going back into their homes from some of the fire affected areas? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, as I stated, we have people that are going back into the areas that have very limited fire damage today. We're doing that at noon today. We're allowing people to go back into their homes in the affected areas of Yankee Canyon, Mountain Mesa, and east of South Lake. For the affected areas where there's fire damage, the assessment teams, as Public Health had stated, are making those plans for a systematic re-entry into those areas. And that's why the transition center will be opened up as soon as it can, possibly tomorrow, to start doing some work in that direction. We are trying to address every issue we can to do this in the best way to support the people as we put them back into their homes or in the recovery process.
So someone could go to the assessment center and find out, yes, when I could go back to my house?
We'll have a planned systematic way to bring people into the assessment center, the transitional center, because we can't assess the whole thing and everybody come at one time. It will be a planned progressive procedure.
And how will they know when to show up and find out?
So that's what the call center, public information, the EOC is the management of this process, and we have a information cadre to get that information out as it's available.
You have residents telling us that they've left the area and then tried to get back in just to get back to the centers. Are there still roads closed that people cannot go back in?
So Highway 178 is open without restriction today, outside of the Edison activity with the crane on 178. The restrictions now are, as I stated before, the Squirrel Valley area on McRae and South Lake area off Entrada. The other areas are open for people to
I'm Mark Mutz, Fence Post Paper. Have the cadaver dogs been through all the affected areas?
The cadaver dogs are currently working as we speak. They are coming to a grasp of how long it's going to take them. Latest I heard is possibly 3 more days of work. I'm not sure on that. They're going as fast as they can, trying to do a good systematic search.
I'm Kristen Price from 17 News here in Bakersfield. It sounds like the process of determining that the rubble, the ash is safe for people to go back to their homes is going to be pretty lengthy. I think maybe environmental health or public health could answer that. What is that process going to be like to determine if people can even go back to what's left of their homes?
Right, Constantine, public health.
Yes, briefly, what we are going to do is go into those areas that have been damaged once fire clears it and allows us to enter. We are going to be looking for potential contaminants. As I said before, our concern is primarily chemicals that may have been stored in a garage. You can imagine what typically is stored in a household garage. Those have melted and mixed. We believe that may present some risk. Again, though, we are also worried about any of the asbestos in older homes, in the insulation and the roofing material. We're also worried about the potential of paint. Prior to 1978, lead was in paint. That presents a concern for us too. So if we have individuals that have suffered a loss of their home and they want to sift through the ash, we have some concerns. So our intent is to go into those areas as soon as we're allowed, conduct a preliminary assessment. There are also state agencies that are going in ahead of us to also take a look. If we believe there's some risk We want to be able to articulate that to the homeowners so that they can take precautions when they are choosing how to sift through the material and what they're going to do from here.
And how does that work? Do you test the air, test the ash? What is the...
Yes, some of the testing we will do is if we have concerns about soil contamination, we can take some field tests. If we have indication that there are still remaining chemicals that are unburnt or still in their original containers, we're going to try to assist with their removal. So it'll be dependent upon what the issues are, but we will have those teams there trying to assist homeowners.
And just one more, what are the possible health effects? Why would it be dangerous for someone to be in that area?
Well, you can imagine, again, these chemicals that sometimes we store and keep in our garages for a long time have now been exposed, perhaps mixed. Their chemical nature has changed. Exposure to some of those chemicals can present both an acute and a long-term risk. So we want everybody to get back in as soon as they can, but we need to realize there are some concerns returning to a home that's been devastated.
Matt, while you're still there, if I'm living up there, how do I find out if my water is okay? If you've been checking all of them, but how do I find out?
We have. So the state has issued notices to all of the water systems that have been affected, and it is their obligation to notify those that receive water from those systems. But we understand, obviously, in this event, that's very difficult to do. So we are trying to assist with that process. Our teams have these advisory notices that we are going to provide to the affected homeowners and providing information what to do. There's some systems, again, that we just do not want you to drink at all, do not want you to boil the water. There are some systems where the water can be made safe by boiling. And again, these are precautionary notices because we have concerns that the pressure in the system is decreased and the potential for contamination exists. We don't have evidence to say that there is any presence of a bacterial indicator in the water, but it seems likely that there could be.
As the fire continues to burn, are there any structures in its way?
So to repeat the question, you're asking as the fire burns, are there still threatened structures, correct?
The fire continues to burn. It's burning in steep, rugged terrain south of Lake Isabella. But air assets, the air tankers, the helicopters, ground-based hand crews are working on it, trying to control that portion of the line that's out of control. We fully expect the fire to stay inside the box that we've built, the area that we believe the fire will stay in and be ultimately 100% controlled. If the fire did pick up, whether that be from like a wind event and did start moving to the north and west, the communities of Lake Isabella and Bodfish would be threatened by an out-of-control fire on that side of the line. So it remains a dynamic situation until the fire is 100% controlled and contained, completely out. Yeah, there's still more threats out there.
How many evacuees are we talking about and relocating?
So to repeat the question, you asked how many evacuees have been relocated or are still displaced?
Still displaced.
Hi, Megan from Red Cross. I can't actually speak to the total number of evacuees who have been relocated. What I can tell you is our current shelter population. As of midnight last night, we had 74 residents in our Kernville shelter and 7 people in the St. Jude's shelter. To address an earlier comment, as far as monetary assistance that's available to these folks, if people have found that their homes have been destroyed by the fire, the Red Cross will be able to provide them with some emergency financial assistance. And that's what we'll be addressing at the transition centers as people go back to their homes and we get damage assessment information on the homes that have been destroyed.
I'm sorry, how many did St. Jude's again?
74 and 7.
Any more questions? Okay, I'd like to thank you all for being here, and we appreciate your interest, and we will be relying on you as the media and as our cooperative agencies to disseminate this information as we get it available and to assist these evacuees and victims of the fire. Thank you.